Hi guys, my name is Ratan. So in this video, we are going to discuss about the HTML classes. Yeah, I'm starting the UI technologies guys, HTML classes. Yeah, we're discussing HTML classes. Coming to the HTML classes, today class will go for the what is the purpose of HTML? What is the purpose of HTML? So in real time, where exactly HTML is used and what kind of applications you can design using HTML. So we will see like purpose of HTML, right? Good. What is the purpose of HTML means? So guys, if you take any web application, go for the any web application. So for example, Book My Show is there. So Book My Show, Amazon application, any application you can take. So Redbus application, any application you can take. Generally tell me the application contains how many layers? The application contains how many layers? So the application contains how many layers means, see, we are the clients. So the client is sending the request to where Book My Show server, right? The client is sending the server to the client is sending the request to where server. So we are the client. We are sending the request to Book My Show server, and the server will take the request and process the request and generate the response to the client, right? So generally assume like in real world scenario, Book My Show application is there. We are sending the request to Book My Show server. Book My Show server is taking the request and process the request and give the response to what client, right? Good. And Book My Show server need to store some details. That's what they are going for the concept like database. Okay, so we have the client, server and database, right? Good. So any web application like Book My Show and Redbus or Abibus or any application generally contains how many layers, tell me? The application contains, okay, the application contains the three layers. What are three layers? Client, server, database, right? Good. See, what is the client will do? What is the client will do? So guys, let me open the paintbrush once. So we have the three layers. The first layer will be the client layer, and second layer will be the server layer, and the third layer will be the database layer, right? Good. So you are saying like HTML, but you are teaching like web application layer. So very important. Just you can check once. Okay, this is the client. This is called server. This is called what? Database, right? Good. Let me write this point is the client. So he is the client, and he is the server. Okay, client, server. Third one is what? Yeah, third one is what? Database, right? Good. I don't focus too much about this diagrammatic forms. Try to understand, feeling important, right? Yeah, client, server and what? Database, right? Good. See, in the client, generally we are typing the URL. So here we are typing the URL in the client. So assume like here I'm typing the www dot, so facebook.com, right? fb.com, facebook.com. So again, this is my Facebook. The client will send the request to where, tell me? The client will send the request to server. This is a server. The client will send the request to server. Okay, the client will send the request to server. Yeah, and take the response from what? Server, right? Take the response from the server. That is a client will do, guys. So the client always sends the request to server. Okay, takes the response from server, right? Good. So guys, generally in the client side, we are seeing that you are taking the login form. The login form means what? We can have the username and we can have the password, and we have one button like the login button, right? Yeah, generally the client side we are seeing the forms like this, no? So username and password, and this is a login button. So username means we expecting the one text box here. I hope everyone knows this code, right? And the password is expecting one text box, and the login is the button. The button can, this is a button, right? Exactly. Yeah, this is the client. So we open the Facebook or Book My Show, whatever the website. We are seeing the form, the login form or registration form, right? This is the client, guys. What the client will do? Client will enter the data. Yes, client will what? Enter the data. Send the details to what? Server, right? Send the request to server. The server will take the request. But what does, see, you understood the client, right? What is the client? Tell me. Who sends the request and tell me who sends the request and what? Who takes the response, right? Oh, you please respond. Yeah. So you take the response, right? Yeah. So who sends the request and who takes the response? Yeah, is called what client. That is a client responsibility. Client is always sending the request to server and taking the response from what server, right? That is called client, guys. I hope you understood client, right? Good. So what is the server here? Coming to server, the server which contains the complete project. See, in real time, once the application is completed, the application is deployed in where, tell me? The application hosted or deployed in server, right? Good. The server contains the application, right? Server contains the, tell me guys, server contains the application. The server contains the application. Server contains what? Application. And server will takes the request. Okay, server what? Server takes the request from, take the request from what? Client. Take the request from the client. Third one is what? Tell me guys. Process the request. After processing the request, tell me, server contains the project, right? Because in real time, once the project is completed, where will deploy the project? We'll deploy the project on server, right? Deploy means placing the project into server or hosting the application server, right? Yeah, the server contains the application. The server takes the request from the client, process the request. Tell me guys, process the request. After processing, tell me, so generate the response to what? Client, right? This is the responsibility of the server, guys. As I hope the points are clear, right? The server contains the application. Server contains the application. Server takes the request and process the request and generate the response to a client, right? Generate the response to client, right? That is the responsibility of the, tell me guys, responsibility of the server, right? Exactly. So once the server is ready, so we have the database. So server is mainly processing the data, guys. After that we have the database. Database will store the data. Tell me guys, database will store the data temporarily, permanently? Database will store the data temporarily or permanently. That is the point. So the database will store the data definitely, permanently it will store the data, right? Guys, the server is sending the request and server is what? Taking the response, right? Server is taking what? Response. Sorry saying HTML classes but explaining server. But I'll convert this one into the HTML. Just wait a second. So this is sending what? Request and this is getting the response, right? So database will store the data in which format? Tell me. Tables format, right? Assume like this is your table. The table contains what? Rows and columns, right? The table contains what? Rows and columns. Diagram is very difficult here. Yeah, rows and what? Columns. Let me add some rows here. This is a rows. Okay, so feeling important. So we have the data, understood, right? So this is the client server database. Can we guys please respond what the client will do? Client means what? Who sends the request? Please respond, guys. Involve in the class. Involve in the class. Client means what? Who sends the request and takes the response is called client. What a server? Server contains the project and the server takes the request from the client and process the request and generate the response to the client. What the database will do? Database will store the data permanently, right? Yes, database will store the data permanently. There is a client, server, database. Any web application, the process will be the client, server and database, right? Guys, I hope the points are clear. Good. That is a client, server and what? Database. Sir, that is all are okay. See guys, the client means what? Who sends the request and takes the response. See, in the client, client means what? Who is sending the request? Tell me. We are sending the request, right? Yes, who is sending the request? We are sending the request. Then who is the client? Definitely you are thinking that we are the clients, right? See, physically we are the clients. Yes, physically we are the clients. But technically we are the clients, or who is the client then? Physically we are sending the request, right? Yes or no? Physically we are sending the request, but technically we are sending the request, or who is sending the request? Yeah, maybe some people will respond. Technically who is sending request means, can I say browser, right? Because in the browser only you are typing the URL, right? The browser only you can see the form and you enter the details, click on what button? Login button or registration button, right? Tell me guys, then who is the client? Client means we are the client. See, we are the physically we are the clients, but technically who is sending the request? Guys, technically who is sending the request? Browser, right? Yeah, so we understood all browsers are, tell me guys, all browsers are examples of clients. Guys, all browsers are what? Examples of client. So finally we understood client means what? Who sends the request and take the response. So client means physically we are the clients, but technically who is sending the request? Tell me. Browser is sending the request, right? Guys, who is sending the request? Browser is sending the request, right? Yeah, naturally browser is a client. See guys, client means what? Browser. Client means what? Browser, because browser is sending the request. Client means browser. Browser means what? Forms, right? Forms are not login form, registration form, updation form, like display the gallery photos. These all are the forms, right? So you understand, right? Client means what? Browser. Browser means what? Forms. These forms are sending the details to where? Server, right? Because here we enter the details username. Guys, you enter the details are what? Username, right? Assume that the username is what? Ratan. The username is what here? Ratan. And password is what? Ratan at the rate 123, something like this. So when you enter the details like this, Ratan at the rate 123, username, password. So this form is sending these details to where? Tell me, server, right? Okay, this form purpose is what? To fill the details are sending to server, right? Yes or no? Send the details to server. So client means what? Browser. Browser means what? Forms. The forms are designed using HTML. Okay, so finally, after this much explanation, you got the clarity that client means what? Browser, because browser only sending the request. Client means what? Browser. Browser means what? Forms, either login form, registration forms. The forms are designed using what concept, guys? Here, HTML, hypertext markup language. I hope now you got the clarity, right? So what the HTML full form, guys? Here, hypertext. Tell me guys, markup language, right? Hypertext markup language. Tell me guys, client means what? Client means forms. Client means what? Forms. The forms are designed. Tell me guys, forms are forms are designed using what concept here? HTML, right? That is the first point about the HTML, guys. I hope you understood the point, right? Yeah, client means browser. The client means what? Browser. And client means browser. Browser means what? Tell me. Browser means forms, and forms are designed using HTML. That's the first point about the HTML, guys. We should have the clarity. Why the forms means to send the details to server, because login form to send the details to login details server. Login form is there. Otherwise, we have the, tell me guys, register form is there to send the registration details to server, right? That is the first point about the HTML, guys. We understood. So after this much explanation, you got the clarity that web application contains the three layers: client, server, and database. Client means what? Who sends the request and take the response. Client means what? We are the clients. Browser is a client. Yeah, physically we are the client. Generally, client means browser. Browser contains what? Tell me, client means what? Browser. Browser means what? Forms. The forms are designed. Client means browser. Browser means what? Forms. The forms are designed using what concept? HTML, right? Login form and registration form, right? Guys, login form and what? Register form. Okay, sorry, clear? So parallelly write the notes, guys. Maintain the notes also. You will get the more clarity about that points. Clear? Good. That's the one point, guys. The second point. Then what is the purpose of HTML means? The second point is, see guys, you are sending the details to server using the forms. Guys, using what? Forms. You are sending the details to where? Server. What the server will do? Take the request, process the request, and generate the response to client. See here, I am saying that server is generating the response to client. Tell me, server is generating what response? Maybe server is generating some 100 products, right? Yeah, server is giving some 10 products, assume. Server is giving the response is what? The server is giving the response 10 products. Tell me what we need to do. That product should be displayed. Tell me guys, the product should be displayed in the browser, right? Server is giving the response. Server is giving the response 10 movies or 10 products. The product should be displayed in which format? Tell me. Either list format. Guys, server is given the response. That response should be displayed in what format? Tell me. Either list format or table format or grid format. Sir, no. So the response should be displayed in which format? Table format or list format and what? Grid format. So that response is displayed in the browser using HTML concept. Guys, using what concept? Yeah, HTML concept, right? The second point about HTML, guys. Yes, you got the clarity, right? See, we should know the real time exactly where the HTML is used. So most of the people are starting the HTML saying the H1 tag, hyper heading tags, that tags, this tags. First you have the clarity about what we are going to do, right? So we understood the clarity that real time we have the applications contains three layers: client, server and database. Client means browser. Browser means forms. Client means what? Browser. Browser means what? Forms. The forms are used to send the details to server. Then server given the response. The server given what? Response, right? Tell me, guys, the server. The server given the response. The server given the response. What response? Tell me here. 10 products. The server given the response is what? 10 products. The response is. Tell me, guys. The response is what? Displayed in browser. The response is displayed in browser. Tell me, displayed in what? Browser. Browser using what? Tell me. The response is displayed in the browser using what? Using the list concept, otherwise table concept or grid concept or whatever it may be, right? Exactly. That is second point about HTML. Yes, I hope the points are very clear, right? The server is given the response. How many products? Assume like 10 products or 10 movies. Yes, sir. The response is displayed in the browser, right? Using what concept? List, tables. In the table format you are displaying, right? Or list format you are displaying, right? Assume like got the veg products displayed in the list format. We got the employee details displayed in the table format. We got the movies displayed in the cards for grid formats. I hope the second point is clear. The second point about HTML, guys. This is exactly real time what the purpose of HTML. Are you clear, right? Good. And one more point about HTML. See, guys, sometimes HTML, we can see some tutorial websites, right? So we have the tutorial websites. So in the tutorial Oracle docs, any documentations, right? Tutorials. Tell me, guys, these tutorials contains the forms, tables, just headings and paragraphs. Because generally tutorial websites you can take, na. So take the any tutorial, Java tutorial, .NET tutorial, Python tutorial websites. Tutorial websites which contains what? Just headings and tell me, guys, which contains what? Headings and tell me heading and what? Paragraph, right? Headings and paragraph. We need to style the heading, we need to style the paragraph. We have the pre-tags. So these are the tags, right? So tutorial websites we have can see only mainly headings and paragraphs, right? Yes, sir. No, headings and what? Paragraphs. We need to structure the content of the website, right? To structure this content of the website, we are using HTML concept, guys. We need to structure the. Tell me here. We need to what? We need to structure the content of the HTML, right? To structure the content of the website. To structure the content of the website, we are going for the HTML, guys. So okay, so structure the content of the, tell me, guys, content of the website, because paragraphs and headings is a content, right? So to structure the content of the website, we are going for the HTML. Yes, real time, this is the 3 points about the HTML. Even I can tell you just in the 2-3 minutes, but more clear explanation is important, right? Yes or no? So this is the data, guys. So what the responsibility of HTML means? In the web applications, we have the client. Client means what? Browser. Browser means what? Tell me, guys. Client means what? Browser. Browser means what? Forms. The forms are designed using HTML. Using this form, we are sending the details to server. Yes, using that forms, we are sending the details to where? Server. First point. Second point is what? The server is given the response. The server is given the response like 10 products. In response, we need to display in the browser. The response should be displayed in where? Browser, right? Using list, table and grid. Third point is what? In tutorial websites, we have the only mainly headings and paragraphs. Headings and what? Paragraphs and hyperlinks. So these all. We need to structure the content of the website. To structure the content of the website, we are going for the HTML. Okay, these are three purposes of HTML, guys. Guys, clear? So maybe the page contains what, guys? Forms. The maybe HTML page, the HTML page contains the forms. Maybe the HTML page contains the tables. Maybe the HTML page contains the headings and what? Paragraphs, right? Okay, these all three can say HTML used to create the web pages. Yes, HTML used to create what? Web pages. So the web pages are static web pages, dynamic web pages that we will discuss later classes. HTML is used to create what? A web page. The web page maybe contains a form. As web page what? Maybe contains a form. The web page maybe contains what? Tables. Okay, list. The web page maybe contains headings and what? Paragraphs. So finally we understood this is the purpose of what? HTML in real time. Okay, are you clear? So finally we decided HTML is used to create the web pages. The web page maybe contains what? Forms. The web page maybe contains tables and lists. The web page maybe contains the page maybe contains headings and what? Paragraphs, right? That is called what? Purpose of HTML, guys. Is it clear? Web applications means what? Book My Show, Redbus. The web application contains how many layers? 3 layers. What are 3 layers? Client, server. So first one is what? Client layer. Client layer. Second one is what? Server layer. Okay, server layer. And the third one is what? Database layer, right? Third one is the database layer. Total each contains 3 layers. So this is the process for that. You take this diagram also. Just you can pause the video and just you can take this diagram, right? Yeah, what is a client will do? Client means what, guys? Who sends the, tell me guys, who sends the request and what? Takes the, tell me here, takes the response, right? Take the response. Example is what? All browsers. All browsers are examples of what? Clients. Server is what? The server contains what? Tell me guys, server contains the, speak out, contains the application. The server contains the application. Server takes the, tell me guys, say takes the request from client. Take the request from the client. Process the request. Tell me guys, process the request. Next one is what? Generate the response, right? Generate the response to client. Generate response to what? Client, right? Servers like Book My Show server, Facebook servers, the servers are there. Next one is what? Database. Database purpose is what? Use it to store the data temporarily, permanently. Definitely database means what? Store the data permanently, right? Use it to store the data. Use it to store the data. Example maybe you know that Oracle database, MySQL database, MongoDB database is a database, right? Exactly. Is it clear? Good. That is the point, guys. And next one we talk about the purpose of HTML. Client means what? What is a client, guys? Client is a browser. Browser means what? Forms. Client means browser. Browser means forms. Forms are designed using HTML. Why that forms? To send the details to server, right? To send the details to what? Server. The second one is what? Server given the response. Assume like it is given the 10 products. The products are displayed in browser which format? Tables format or list format, right? And some website, tutorial websites, we have the headings and paragraphs. We need to structure the content of the website. To structure the content of the website, tell me guys, you're going for the HTML. So HTML is used to create what? Web pages, right? Yes or no? Yeah. So you can write these points. You can go through these all the points. So we'll meet to go for the next video. We'll go for the next points. Thank you.